Hello everybody, Captain Sidaris here. We have again a reason to celebrate. 25 years of Stargate SG-1. And as you know me, I found a friendly soul on the internet to talk not only about Stargate, but also about an amazing fan modification for Star Wars Empire at War. So today, SGMG Martin, one of the developers of the project, is joining me. Hi there, how are you doing?
Hello. Well, I'm fine. I'm great. Really honored to be here. And I hope that we will have a very nice discussion about Stargate and maybe some other stuff.
Yeah, definitely. But before we go more into it, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What do you do in life? What movies do you watch? And what games do you enjoy?
I certainly can. I am a member of the Stargate modding group, which is a group responsible for the Stargate Empire at War Pegasus Chronicles. I am member of the team for the last 7 years, and I work in the group as a 3D modeler. I also make textures, animations, and I did also some minor stuff with sound and stuff like that. Apart from that, I work as an engineer in Siemens. So I design or am helping designing rail vehicles like trains, metros, trams, and stuff like that. And of course, high-speed trains, which are my favorite. And I'm from Czechia, and also for last few years, I've been really consumed by 3D printing, designing models for the 3D printing, and the 3D printing itself, where I mainly focus on designing and printing Stargate models, mainly ships, but also other stuff. And when it comes to the hobbies, I guess I am really a big nerd since I was a child, and I am quite proud of it. So sci-fi in general, a little bit less fantasy, and stuff like that. So various TV series, but one constant, which is Stargate, which I watch over and over and over and over again. I couldn't even say how many times. The movie, I have to say that that's the movie that I've seen the most number of times. There were times when I was younger, mainly during summer holidays, where I watched the movie even twice a day. I'm not kidding. That's a fact. And I've seen that movie so much that I can basically recite it from top of my mind, from memory, though in Czech, unfortunately. I'm a big geek, and I'm proud of it.
I want to ask here, when did you watch basically the first season of SG-1? When was it released in Czech?
It was in '98, and I watched it back then.
Also very close to the American release basically.
Yeah, it was '97 was the premiere, and next year I remember that they bought the rights on our TV here, and I watched it because I already knew the movie, and I watched it mainly because I wanted to see another Horus and Jackal guards, because I was always, since I was a little boy, I always loved retracting technology, where something basically retracts to nothing, like the helmets. And I was kind of sad that they had the Serpent Guard helmets, which only opened, but it didn't prevent me from falling in love with that series, and I loved it ever since.
Since you watched the movie so many times, how was for you the transition from the movie to the series? Was it very strange that we now had completely different actors?
No, because first of all, I have to admit something I'm not really proud about. When I first watched the movie, which was in '96, it was actually on my first summer camp. I wasn't impressed by it. I was a silly 8 years old kid back then, so that maybe gives me some pass. But please, don't kill me for that. But I loved the technology, as I said, of the retracting helmets and stuff like that. And I didn't really went to the SG-1 with actors in mind. I didn't care about them. I didn't really care about the characters even, because as I said, movie back then didn't have the hold it has on me now, and I don't know since when. Anyway, I didn't care about the characters, so I didn't care that they were played by different actors. Now, of course, that's a different story. Now, I would go as far as to say that I would wish that the movie is done with the characters from the series. I always kind of hated that the movie and the series are the two different canons. Even though the series is a continuation of the movie, it has its own canon, and it changes quite a lot of stuff from the movie. For example, where the gate is in the movie, it's Creek Mountains. In the series, Chain Mountains. Robbing Gold in the series, but humanoid aliens in the movies, and stuff like that. And it kind of bugs me. So I have to say, a few years ago, I even did my own, I call it SG1 cut for the movie. And I re-edited the movie. I even added some scenes from the series to be in sync with the canon from the series. The actors obviously were still the same. I even used some different footage from the movie War Games. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah, sure.
It's also in Chain Mountains, the base, and there were some nice exterior shots that I used as well. And yeah, I used the sounds from the series. So whenever Ra's eyes are glowing in the movie, it had the same sound effect as in the series and stuff like that. So yeah, it doesn't show him as this human alien, but instead there was a scene of a symbiont entering a body and stuff like that. Yeah, I really have to say that I am really nerdy because I spent, I believe, 3 months working on it, and basically I am still the only person that saw it and will ever see it. So yeah.
It sounds quite nice. To be honest, I would like to watch it.
I will have to check if I even still have it. I believe so, but there is one thing that I am not really proud or satisfied with, and that's the shots of the Stargate in the movie, because there is a different gate than in the series, and I basically try to change it and overlap it with the shots from the series. And when they are dialing the gate, then there I succeeded quite well, I would say. But the full shots of the entire embarkation room, that's a problem because I don't have any reference scenes from the series that I could use. So when Daniel first sees the Stargate, it's basically the gate that they have with some overlapping images of SG1 gate, and it simply doesn't look good. But there, I couldn't do it better, and that's still something that I don't really like. But
Yeah, in general, it sounds like a tough project, but it's a fan project, and I love stuff like that.
I will take a look if I still have it, and if so, I will try to send it to you.
Moving on to the gaming side a little bit. Did you play any Stargate games besides Pegasus Chronicles?
Well, when I was younger, there was basically nothing from Stargate. Only some Java-based minor games that basically someone made in, I don't know, one afternoon. I believe I have played the Stargate game, the game based on the movie. That was a side scroller. It was this animation from the beginning of the 90s, end of the 80s, where it looks kind of realistic, but it was basically just moving pictures. I don't know if you know what I mean. I don't know how it's called, this type of animation, but it wasn't really good. I don't really even remember the details about it. And then I don't think I've played anything else Stargate related. I believe the first true Stargate game, true in quotations, was the Pegasus Chronicles. Or if I am correct, then it was before Pegasus Chronicles, so it was our first version, which was still Stargate Empire at War. Sorry. It was first based on the original game, not on the Forces of Corruption. So that one I tried first, and I have to say that I fell in love with it immediately.
Well, I quite can understand that. There is such a good basis from Empire at War, would say.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you guys did an amazing job But before we go more into the mods, can you tell me maybe how you got into modding? Was this your first time you modded anything, or did you do anything before?
Well, it was my first time when I did my mods for community. Before that, I did some changes to the game files and stuff like that in different games, but only for me. I never published anything, never shared it with anyone, and basically everything which I did up to that point, I was completely self taught. But it was only minor stuff. I don't know, changing textures and maybe changing some stats so that I can have a super fast car and nonsense like this. But the very first true modding was for the Pegasus Chronicle.
I guess, sadly, outside of the Empire at War community, not so many fans know about Pegasus Chronicles. Of course, they see for a few minutes already the background footage, but maybe you can give us a short summary what this project even is.
Well, officially it's a mod, but I think that calling it a mod is underselling it. It's basically completely different game, or rather a total conversion of Star Wars Empire at War Forces of Corruption, which is a game with data disk from Star Wars, obviously, which is RTS, real-time strategy, with both space and ground combat, and with three sides, yeah, Empire, Rebels, and Zan Consortium, which are basically pirates. So we basically took this, and based on that, we started to design our own game. Of course, before that, we worked on the vanilla version of the game without the data disk, and it had only two factions. So we basically, in the start, we have only Tauri and Goa'uld. But then when the data disk came and we had the opportunity to have one more faction, we didn't hesitate and moved to the data disk or the full game with the data disk because we also wanted to add Wraiths. And since then, the Pegasus Chronicle, which is the current product, let's say, is based on that. And for quite a long time, we only had space battles. Yeah, so I would even say that for most fans, this aspect of the game is more attractive. But the original game also had a ground battles and quite well, in my opinion. So basically, we started to work on the ground part as well. And ground part is something that I have to say I'm proud to say that I was a big part of it because I worked mainly on the ground part, and the ground part was released not so long ago, and quite recently it was moved to stable beta. So the ground battles are really stable. It's very nice that at least during our testing and during our playing, they rarely crashed. So that was really nice. And we, of course, are also working on some easily recognizable maps from the series. That's actually how I started to work for the team. My first task was to make props for the Tagria map. If you remember, Tagria is the planet where Prometheus was forced to land after its core was blown to smithereens. And that was kind of fun. That was the first task I had to do as a freelancer back then. And I don't know if you remember, but in those exterior shots, they even had some trains in that city or whatever it was. It was kind of like factory district or stuff like that. So I also animated and well modeled and animated some trains, and we were able to actually put it into game. So when you are on the Tagria map, every now and then there are trains both for passengers and for cargo, basically riding through the map, and that's something I really enjoy because it was, you know, it's your first. It always will be a special for you.
That and I think those small details make a background, a map, basically kind of alive. It adds something.
Yeah, I believe so as well. I have to say that one thing that our mod is, I would say, known for is that we really strive for being as accurate to the series as possible. and to stay as faithful to the canon as possible. So we have, I would say, strict policy against invented stuff, against stuff that was not really in the series. Of course, there are also some models and some stuff that contradicts what I just said. We have a few things like that, but mainly from the gameplay reason. Yeah, I would say the best example is the Wraith fleet. Yeah, in the series we only have two ships, a hive and cruiser, and that's it. And everybody has to agree that that's not enough for the full faction to have only two types of ships. So there we were basically forced to invent stuff like new ships, but we were strictly adhering to the established design of the ships and try to do them basically like we imagined they would look in the series if this type of vessel would be there. So I guess in this regard it could be forgiven because that's really necessary for the gameplay. But we also had few models, or rather few units, few ships that go completely against what I said. Like for example, the Soul, which is completely invented unit, but it has become quite a big part of the game, so it kind of stuck. But apart from that, yeah, of course, we also have recently we added fourth faction, which are the Asurans, so Pegasus replicators. And the Pegasus replicators use the ancient ships. And we also have basically a campaign where you can play as the ancients in their war against the Wraith. So for that purpose, we had to have the ancient ships. But once again, in the series, we have seen only one type, which was the Aurora. Later, when the Asurans were introduced, we also saw the small corvette, which was in the episode 410 and 442. And yeah, and in the episode Progeny, there was one quick shot where we could have seen the ancient cruiser. So these three ships we have in our game, which aren't invented, but there was still too few ships. There we still have to invent a few ships. But I believe this could be forgiven because, gameplay reasons. But apart from that, we really adhere to this policy and we try only use stuff that was explicitly shown or mentioned in the series or was at least existing in form of concept art, like for example the Sleipnir, which was the mothership or capital ship of Odin, and was supposed to be in the series but was eventually not featuring. But we like the design, so we added the ship into one special map built around that ship. So yeah, in that case, we do have some, well, invented stuff, even though it's not even invented by us, but stuff that was invented by the creators of the series, but didn't make it to the final cut.
I think it's just natural that a game always has to invent some ship, some units, because, yeah, to be honest, we always see the hero faction, which is developed the most, and the other factions only use a handful of ships, so it's difficult. Speaking also a little bit more about the start. Well, basically, how did it start?
Okay, so the first start of the game was in 2006, and it was basically a solo work in a way of a founder, and it was Romeo 2K. It started basically when the series was cancelled, yeah, after the season 10. A year later, few people from Germany basically joined with him, and thus the Stargate modding group was formed. And basically, it grew ever since. We added more stuff and tried to do it even better. But in that year, Romel left us, and basically we overtook, or the guys that joined back then overtook the project and worked on it ever since. Basically, we added stuff and tried to work on it as much as it was possible. And basically, this was still based on the vanilla game without the data disk. But around 2010, we decided to switch, or basically to start from scratch and work with the data disk. So since 2010, we in a way started really from scratch, because not everything we had done up till then was usable in the new version. So quite a lot of stuff had to be redone from scratch. Then we continued. As I already mentioned, we had only space battles back then, and I personally joined in 2015. Back then, we already started to work on the ground. I don't know for how many years already, so I don't remember that, but it slowly continued until today. Though I have to admit that my personal contributions to the game this year were virtually non-existent, because I'm kind of consumed by the 3D printing, something that I kind of regret.
Well, we have to prioritize our time, so it's understandable.
Yeah, yeah. One thing that I forgot to mention is that we mainly use the mod database for basically spreading the mod, but it was 2019, I believe. I'm not sure about the particular year, but we basically switched. Well, not switched. We are still on the ModDB, but we also came to the Steam workshop. So that's, for example, my preferred version to have the game via Steam, and on Steam Workshop we are there. So anybody who buys the game on Steam can also download from the Steam Workshop our modification and play with us. And that was really very big step, because at least in my opinion, it made the game more accessible than before.
Yeah, I guess more people now bought the game via Steam because of the many sales we had in the past than the original CD version.
Mm.
But I wonder, do you guys still host a version basically for this disc version? So can you still play the mod if you have the original?
Yes, yes. That was another big thing. Introduction of our launcher. Basically, the launcher is designed in such a way that it supports basically whatever version of the game you might have. So, if you have a retail version, if you have still a DVD installed in your computer, then you just download the mod itself, or you don't even have to do that. You just download the launcher and it will do everything for you. So that's also a thing that, even though I have no work in that, because that's way beyond me, I'm really proud that we achieved that thing.
Do you know if it's possible that the disc version and the Steam version play together online? Because I know from the original game it's not possible, but did you maybe do something on the multiplayer code there?
I cannot say, I don't know. Because I don't know anybody with a retail version, to be honest, so I have no idea.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Most people rebought it again on Steam. I did too.
I also bought it on Steam for, I don't even know, $5 or $10. So yeah, it was really a no-brainer for me.
You mentioned many different developers. I wonder how many worked in general on the project and how many maybe are still active.
Guys that were members previously, that's quite a big number. I would say that if I took into account all the guys today and in the past, I would say 30 to 40, but never at the same time. Yeah, right now, basically, there are 11 of us, but four of us are basically not really active, as I said, live and stuff like that. So Now, I would say 7. 6 or 7 really active members who work, I would say, every day or most of the day. Actually, our current leader, Locutus, still works quite hard on it, even though he just recently had a baby. I really admire that even with full-time job with his kids, he still finds the time. That's, in my mind, it's admirable, and yeah, I really think he's a great guy.
Well, that's just his passion.
Yeah. I would also mention that vast majority of our team is and was German. Basically, most of the guys in past and even now are from Germany. But we also had quite a diverse group. Yeah, basically, we had a guy from Austria, Czechia, obviously, from Hungary, from Finland, from USA, from France, and of course, we also had or still have freelancers from all around the world who help us with the translation of the game to different languages. So right now the game is in several language mutations. I will not tell you how many because frankly I don't really care about that because I play it all the time in English. Even though there is a Czech version, and I have to say that I even helped with the text back then when my computer was broken, and that was basically the only thing that I could do for the mod. I would never play it with Czech, and I prefer English. So I don't know how many languages there are for the game, but quite a lot.
Even though I'm also not a fan of the translations, I really admire that you are doing this hard work of translating it. That's really rare in fan projects.
Well, to different languages, it's only a text translation. But for the German, that's also an audio translation because, as I said, the game was originally basically German. So all the audio files, the speech and stuff like that was in German, and thus basically in audio version or I don't know if I can say dubbing. Don't know. That's in 2 languages, in English and in German.
Yeah, but even that, it's so far ahead of most fan projects. I played really a ton of mods, and either it's English or a different native language, never both. So, hats off.
But it's kind of funny. I have to say that I also did some work on sounds. Basically, I also did some sound speech. What it means that I went through various episodes and was looking for some lines from a specific character. Like, for example, Lord Yu. So I wanted to make a sound speech for Lord Yu for when you click on the unit, when you tell him to move, when you tell him to attack, and stuff like that. And for each action, there are several tracks that need to be done so that he doesn't say always the same thing. Yeah, so you need at least 3 tracks for, let's say, move. So I was going through various episodes, checking whatever he said, if it could be used, and if so, then I cut it that specific part of the video, extracted the sound, and then basically edit it to be used in the game. And it's then nice to see how it actually sounds in the game. And even for one specific unit, which appeared in the show, but it didn't say a single word. But obviously, the unit cannot be mute in the game. It's strange. So I did the voiceover myself and distorted my voice with some kind of program filter to sound like a Goa would. And the funny thing about this is that all the lines that I made were in Goa'uld, so I try to speak in Goa'uld and sound threatening and stuff like that. And yeah,
I really love the level of detail you guys put into this. It's amazing.
yeah, thanks. We try.
And you succeed, I would say.
I hope so.
But talking about the dark side of every project, what would you say was the most difficult, the biggest problem, basically?
It's without a doubt, there is no question about it. The most difficult part is time. In basically every endeavor, free time is always the problem. And you have to bear in mind that we are not paid for it. This is our hobby. This is something that we do in our free time. And apart that, we have our lives that we have to live and duties to do and stuff like that. So finding the free time is very difficult for it. For me, oh well, not just for me, but currently for me also is very difficult to find what I called a modding mood. When I have it, then I am able basically come back from office and then stay in 3D Max and make models hours and hours in a row. But then, as I said, then there is a time where you basically don't want to touch it at all and want to do anything else. That's the most problematic part of the mode. I'm member only for 7 years, so there are guys who are much longer in the team and worked on it almost from the beginning. But even in those 7 years, I can tell you this is the biggest adversary of the project and something that I would say every single one of us struggled with at least in some point once or twice or even more.
Yeah, it's a really good answer because I guess every content creator, every developer knows this problem. Sometimes you have to force yourself to work, even if it's your passion.
Yes, and I believe that that's the problem because if your hobby, if your passion becomes a chore, then it's, at least in my mind, no longer a hobby because you have to force yourself into doing that. It's an obligation, it's not enjoyment. And I don't know how it works for others, but at least for me, when I'm forced to do that, when I'm obliged, I cannot enjoy it, and it's never the work that is a result from it is not that great. It's certainly not as good as if I were doing it with enthusiasm, with passion, and enjoying myself. So yeah, this is really the most problematic thing.
Totally can relate to that. But going back to the more positive sides, I found a few interesting features or ideas in this mod. For example, I can't remember any other mod which includes a wave mode. How did you guys come up with that idea?
Well, it was once again Locutus, our esteemed leader or co-leader, who came up with the idea. I believe it was back then in 2013, and I cannot really tell you what made him do that or how he got the idea, but basically we started with it with only one map, but it became quite popular. And since then, we added a few more. Right now, we have 3 wave mode maps. Sorry, 4. Yeah, we released another Ori wave mode. So, yeah, I totally forgot. So we have now 4 wave mode maps, and we even have some idea for others, but they are now kind of shelved because our main focus was on a different aspect. But personally, I have to say that I love wave modes. I would say that I play most the wave modes. I found it quite challenging and enjoyable. So I prefer to play a wave mode over normal skirmish or GC. And yeah, I personally really enjoyed it. Mainly the last one, the Ori wave mode. That's really nice wave mode, and I spent hours and hours first testing it and then playing it over and over and over again.
It's always a good sign if a developer plays the stuff and enjoys it so much that he plays it for hours.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one also because I had at least little bit to do with it. I was doing some changes with the Korolev and even added some speech sounds and some new abilities. So I played a little bit even with the code, which is something I don't usually do because I am certainly no coder. But there it worked, and we stuck with it. And so I had at least some contribution to that specific wave mode. So that's something I am kind of proud of.
Another thing I find really unique in this mod is that you have a campaign where basically the goal is that you are losing. You play as the ancient and Yeah, the story basically ends that you are losing, and I find it very unique.
Well, as I said, we try to stay as close to the series or to the canon as possible. And you know that the Ancients lost and the Wraiths won. So when you play as Wraiths, that's a no brainer. You have to defeat the Ancients. But when you play the Ancients, you certainly cannot defeat the Wraiths because then that wouldn't make any sense. So, as the Ancient, your goal is to survive as long as possible and evacuate as many people as possible. So yeah, the goal is basically to lose, but to lose as well as possible, I guess.
Yeah, but I think many games and many fan productions basically they want to win, they want to make you happy, and I find it interesting that you went the other way and stick to the original concept.
Well, yeah, we did, and I think it was a very good idea because now basically it doesn't matter which faction you choose in the GC or the campaign, you will still adhere to what exactly happened, and that's that the Raid won and the Ancient lost.
Another thing I read about the conquest mode is that you reworked a little bit the galactic AI, but I couldn't find any information. What did you change? I'm interested in that.
I will describe it only in layman terms because that's obviously out of my league. But yeah, Commander Cody, our teammate, did amazing job, and it was not just a galactic AI; it was complete AI. He basically redesigned or redone the entire AI, and as I said, I am a layman in this, yeah, in this particular aspect. But in my mind, he did excellent job because now, let me tell you this: one-on-one against computer set on a hard difficulty, I really struggle to win. I'm not sure I've ever had more challenging opponent in RTS than in our game after the change of the AI. I cannot tell you what exactly he did. I don't understand that. But I can only tell you that before that, I was able to play against the heart with relative ease. Now, no way. It's like I play against a person. Maybe I sound like I'm trying to oversell it or stuff like that, but that's a fact. Right now, I usually don't even try to play on hard because it's not fun for me in a way that I really have to try and really have to work for it because it's really challenging.
It's good that you put in the extra effort to make it more difficult and more unique, I would say.
Well, yes, but that was not that the intent. The intent was that we added some stuff that was not really there in the vanilla game. And thus the AI had no way to actually, use it. So we had to make some changes to the AI to actually use the new stuff that we added. And while he was in that process, he tweaked something here and there, basically what made sense to him. And the final result was far better AI. So it wasn't really even intention to make it as challenging, but in the end, it certainly was.
So just a nice coincidence, basically.
Maybe.
But speaking of complex stuff, I guess there were many ideas, many features which you couldn't do because engine limitation or yeah, too complicated stuff. Can you name me something?
There are a few features that we wanted to implement, but in the end were scrapped. One that comes to mind is the galactic movement. I don't know if you remember, but when you are on a galactic map in the GC and move some unit, it will move along the trajectory from one planet to another. And along the way, there is little galactic model of that specific unit that is moving. So we did, of course, galactic models for every single unit so that it's appropriate. But we had the idea that it wouldn't simply travel in a straight line, but when it leaves the planet, it will enter the hyperspace window and then it will exit it before it arrives to the next planet or the destination planet. And this is unfortunately something we did not manage to do, but this feature was intended. Because one thing I should mention is that we also did something that I'm not sure if other mod has it or had it before us, and that's that we added a hyperspace window. So whenever you call reinforcements in the game and a new ship will arrive, we also have a hyperspace window. So first the hyperspace window will open, and then the ship will arrive from it. So yeah, we tried to implement this to the galactic layer movement as well, but sadly we did not succeed. And there was one more feature that I can remember, and that was basically we were playing with replicators with the bugs, and we wanted them, of course, to attack by melee combat and some acid spray, just like in the series. But there was an idea that we will use basically the face hugging animation. If you remember in the episode Small Victories, first episode of the 4th season, the surviving replicator from the Nemesis jump out of torpedo tubes to the Russian sailor and basically face hug him and kills him. And we wanted to recreate that. But considering that would be two units interacting with each other and have to have synchronized animations, we found out that it would be way too much work, and it wouldn't even be worth the effort. So we in the end decided to scratch that. So yeah, we no longer plan to do anything like that. Well, and yeah, I would say that's I cannot think about other stuff right now. Probably there was something that we wanted to do and then decided not to, but now I cannot remember what else.
Yeah, I guess. As you mentioned before, I guess the main enemy is always time, so you have to prioritize what feature goes in and which is pointless, basically, considering the amount of time you have to spend. But looking again on the other side, what would you say are you most proud of?
I'm, of course, very proud that I participated, but apart from that, I am very proud about one specific thing. As I mentioned before, I always loved the retracting ability or technology. So, for example, the serpent guards, or rather, jackal guard or horse guard, how their helmets retracted completely into the body. And this is something which I always wanted to have in the game. So one day I pitched the idea to the team, where I basically made a very rough model of the helmet and animated how it retracts. And I proposed the idea that basically it would be an ability, and if it could be implemented into the game. And basically, guys agreed, and this feature made it into the game. So if you play the ground part as an Anubis, you can have an access to a field commander, and this is basically a trio of units in one. It's a squad of 3 units of 2 Horus guards and 1 Jackal guard, and they have this ability. So basically, their helmets retract and completely disappear, or vice versa. Gives them some bonuses and stuff like that. But that's one of the things that I'm very proud, because that's something I wanted. That's something for which we didn't really have use before we came with this use, and it's something that I really enjoy. And to be completely honest, those 3 units that I just mentioned, the field commander, those are basically based on the guards from the movie. Yeah, so the Jackal Guard is like the Anubis from the movie, with the same texture or basically the same costume. And the same goes for the 2 Horus Guards. We internally call them Horus Elites because they are like from the movie. And one funny thing is, because I was doing the models and the textures, I did some silly thing. Basically, the field commander, the Jackal Guard, has my face, even with my glasses.
It's nice.
So I am there in the game.
So you basically will now live on forever in this game. You managed it.
In a way, yes.
Well, that's quite an achievement.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's more personal to me when it comes to the achievement. If I speak basically for the whole team, I think that very good achievement is, as I already mentioned, outside of the game, is the launcher itself, which I think is excellent thing. And in game, I would say that basically the ground part is very stable, much more stable than the space part, which unfortunately, yeah, because as I said, some stuff was ported from the old version of the game, and that means that some stuff is not as good as in the final version. But ground part is completely done from scratch and with many years of experience, so the ground part is much better. So yeah, that's something I am also proud of. I'm also very proud of one thing, but we didn't publish it yet, so I cannot talk about it, but I'm really proud of it.
But maybe you can tell us something about the future? Is there maybe a multiplayer campaign coming for the Galactic Conquest?
To be honest, I don't know. Even if I knew, I don't know if I would be able to tell. What I can tell you is that there are few things still planned to be released even this year. We are planning to make a major release rather soon-ish. It is something that many fans were asking for, and it's, I would say, almost ready. And after that is released, we can release also that one thing that I am very proud of, because that's kind of my brainchild. So yeah, more on that when it actually comes out. So yeah, I think that there will be plenty of new stuff this year. I don't even dare to predict what will come in next years. I really don't know.
Nice to see that the mod still has a big future.
Yeah, I hope so. I really do. Even though I am not as active as before, mainly because of the 3D printing, I'm trying to at least do as much as I can do for promotion of the mod, because I know it sounds bad when you are part of the team and say that the game is great, but well, because I am the part of the team and I played, I have no idea how many hours of it. I know it's great, so that is why I promote it so much.
Well, you're basically convinced that this product is good, and I have to tell you, it is. It is amazing.
Yes, I don't believe I would spend 7 years working on it if the game was not good.
Yeah, that's quite understandable. And since you just mentioned how many years you worked on this project, what would you say? Did you maybe personally learn, or what skills did you learn?
Well, when I started, I was really bad in modeling in 3D Studio Max. I modeled in Max before, but that was uh, yeah, it was still back then when I was in a high school, so very very long time ago. So I basically had to relearn everything from scratch. But because I work as a design engineer, I work in a different 3D software in a CAD. So from start, I basically made all my models in that software in Creo, and then ported it into Max. And in Max, I then created textures and stuff like that. Textures, of course, that I have to learn from scratch. I never done textures before, so yeah, basically, first that was texturing, then it was modeling in Max, because as time went on, I started to make the models directly from the 3D Max, and then of course animating them. And yeah, that's certainly something that I got better, or that I learned thanks to the work on the mod. And of course, it also gave me one thing, and that was the cooperation with the international team, I would say. As a matter of fact, I have to say that it was one thing that worked for me in my favor when I was looking for an actual job, because, as I mentioned, I work for Siemens, which is obviously a German company. And when I mentioned that I am in part of mostly German team and that we have weekly meetings when we discuss what to do next, how to approach, how to solve a problem and stuff like that, they were really, I couldn't say impressed, but it certainly worked in my favor. So yeah, it even helped me in real life. So yeah, that was really good.
Talking about the real life, I checked out your YouTube channel and now wonder, did the work on the mod also push you a little bit maybe to the 3D printing, or was this just another side project for you?
No, I was doing models. Well, I don't know, for a very very long time. But I always loved 3D printing. It was basically a dream come true. But I never had a 3D printer before. But one day I decided that I will purchase one. I already had my first model for the Stargate designed. I actually designed it before I even had a 3D printer. That was my replicator, and I decided that I will buy one. And from there, it was start of a very nice and long-lasting addiction. I basically become addicted to 3D printing models, which I actually design. So I started to design all the stuff from Stargate and started to print that out. But I don't think it had anything to do with my work on the mod. It was something which I believe I would do regardless.
I'm also asking because I don't have really a clue how the modeling of the 3D printing is working. So, is it similar to the stuff you do on the mod, or is it completely different?
Uh, Not completely, but it's not that similar. You see, in the model that you use for the game, quite a lot of details on the model is done via texture. So if you add the picture, added some bump, so it simulates basically unevenness. It kind of simulates a 3D, so that even though it's a picture, it looks like it's a model, but still it's a picture. You cannot translate that to the 3D model which you actually want to, print. So there is a difference between modeling for the game and for the real thing, because all the details that are part of the texture cannot be just part of the texture but has to be actually on the model itself. So basically, I tried to make the whole models, basically finished models, in one piece. Let's say, for example, Hatak. Yeah. So I design the Hatak in full, and then I try to, basically cut it into several pieces so that when I print it, I can assemble it together like a Lego or 3D puzzles. Because I hate glue and I don't really want to use it. I use glue only for repairs, but not for, assembling. And that's how I approach it. So it has to have all the details. If that's just a stationary model, that's it. But most of the time, I try to design models with some features, like, I don't know, for example, the O'Neill class. Yeah, this ship has a very unique design, incompatible with the ship actually standing. So I had to design a retractable landing leg. And I designed it in such a way that it fully blends with the main body when it's retracted. So yeah, that also has to be included. Or I don't know, my Stargate models. Yeah, I designed it in such a way that the inner ring can be rotated via the gear underneath the gate. So yeah, moving parts. And I'm not even started with the most difficult model which I designed yet, which was my Serpent Guard helmet, which is fully retractable. even more than in the series. And it's actually a very intriguing mechanism because it's retracted with just one movement. It's linked together via various parallelograms and stuff like that. So one movement will retract the entire helmet. And this is something I'm really proud of because that was quite a big feat of engineering to come up with that. So it's different. It's not the same as modeling for the game.
But it sounds really nice, and it shows again how much passion you have for Stargate, basically.
Yes, yes, that's something that I really can say that I have a big passion for this IP because to say I loved other IPs as well. I was really big Star Wars fan. I would even say I loved it more than Stargate, but then Disney killed it, so I kind of let go of Stargate to better cope with that pain, I guess, and basically moved to only Stargate, and it's my number one for I have no idea how many years.
And how many hours would you say do you need for a simple model and maybe for a model which is more complicated?
Well, it's not easy to answer.
Just a rough number. I know it's different to every model, but in general.
Well, as I said, one of the most difficult models which I've done was the Serpent helmet, and that I designed for I would say a month. But then I started to print the prototype, and basically it was like a 3D printing, a rapid prototyping. When I printed the prototype and assembled it, I found here we have a problem, here this needs more reinforcement and stuff like that, and I immediately put those changes into the 3D model. So I would say that that counts also as the design part because the final product is really different from the prototype. It's way more sturdier, it's safer, it's uh, better, simply better. So I don't know, you count that as a part of the design process, because if so, then I would say 2 months. But if you want to know design of the first fully prepared 3D data, then I would say a month for that difficult model. Right now, I am working on the mothership of Anubis, that very big super attack, and I've already worked on it for quite some time. But I have to say that, let's say, I started maybe 3 weeks ago, but from those 3 weeks, I worked on it only, I don't know, 3 or 4 days in total. But it's also very difficult because if you remember that ship, it retracted and opened those uh, I don't know, emitters, and then it was able to use the eyes of the Goa'ulds and basically obliterated the entire Goa'uld fleet. So basically my idea is to have the ship with the same mechanism so that it opens, and I want to have it just like with the Serpent Guard, to be linked in a way that only one movement or movement of one part will move all the others. So designing that mechanism, that kind of was difficult, but the main model is basically already designed. Theoretically, it's already prepared for the printing, but I still won't do it because first I don't have capacity to actually print it now because I'm printing something else, and it will give me time to take a look, maybe polish something, maybe do something differently, and really prepare it to be top notch. Because even though I don't take any monies for the models, I still put them to the community, and I don't want to publish anything which is not perfect.
Yeah, I can understand that. Good, then I would say just some quick questions are left here. I wonder how many models do you have?
Oh, quite a lot. I publish all my models on the Printables, which is a site from Prusa, the company which makes the 3D printers. And I checked, and to this day, I have 38 entries there. though it's true that 4 of them are not related to Stargate. So basically 34.
I totally see you have love for both projects, and I like them both. I really have to check out more of your channel, and of course I'm looking forward to your new models.
Well, there is one fundamental difference, and that's certainly the working on the mod that brings the joy. Mainly when you then see the community and how it reacts to the game and how it enjoys it. It brings fun to people and stuff like that, and that is really good. That is a nice feeling, and I guess you know what I mean. But when it comes to the 3D printing, for me, there's something even better, and that's the fact that from the very, at least for me, since I was a very small boy, I always wanted to make stuff, to create, but I have a very big disadvantage, and that's that I have both my hands left, so I was never able to actually do stuff. Work with wood and stuff like that. I always sucked in it, and that kind of prevented me to make things. And this is something that 3D printing got completely around, because now I have to imagine it. I have to draw it, I have to model it, but I don't have to make it. The printer does it for me. So you can imagine that it is undescribable feeling when you imagine something in your head, you imagine how it would look, and then let's say a week later you are holding it in your hand. It's physically exists, and it's just like you imagined, or even better. This is something that makes me so happy. So uh, I don't know. I don't even know if I have correct words to describe that feeling, but that's something that, at least for me, is the main reason why am so addicted to the 3D printing and work on that for mainly the Stargate models.
Well, at least I can say it for me. I can hear the love you have. It's really translates over the voice channel. It's really nice. So keep it up and looking forward to see more.
Thanks.
Before we end, I would of course like to know something of you. What do you prefer? SG1, SGA, or SGU?
Well, obviously, SG1, there's no question about that. As I said, I watched that, I have no idea how many times, maybe even approaching 100, and I am not exaggerating. When it comes to SGA, that's something I really enjoy. Something actually I'm really sorry it ended only after 5 seasons. And then, of course, we have SGU, and I have to be honest, I was never really big fan. I actually only saw it once when it premiered, and then for several years I didn't rewatch it at all because I really wasn't fan of the format, the I call it teenage drama, all that emotional stuff, and basically stuff I didn't really care about at all. But then I revisited it, but I watched it with my finger on the skip button, and I skipped all that teenage drama stuff and only focused on the real story, and that improved the story quite a bit, and I actually enjoyed it. So yeah, I was always like that. I never cared about emotions and stuff like that. But when that was out of the picture, I really enjoyed the series. But still, I would say that rather than the 2 series of the SGU, they should have made 2 series of SGA because, in my opinion, it ended on the high note. My opinion is that the 5th season was great, but still 10th season of SG1. Sure, there were good season, there were bad season, but overall SG1 was still my most beloved Stargate series at all.
Of course, I also can't. And a gaming YouTube channel without the question of the day. Did you hear about the new Stargate game and do you plan to play it?
Well, we are of course talking about the Stargate Timekeepers. I've seen the gameplay trailers that they released. There were two missions. One was, I believe, it was on Antarctica during the Battle of Antarctica, or rather after that. And then the other was on some Java planet, I guess. I have to be honest, it didn't really catch me. The format of the game was not something I think is appropriate for Stargate. I don't know. The mission from the Jaffa planet, I have no idea what that planet was. It didn't even look like Stargate, at least to me. It looks like some kind of generic sci-fi world. No idea what that word's supposed to be, but it certainly, at least to me, did not look like Stargate world at all. Maybe it will be good, I don't know, but at least for now, I am not really looking forward to it. If I will play it, who knows, maybe. But it didn't really catch my interest that much, to be honest.
Yeah, I also have to say I'm sadly not that optimistic. It doesn't really fit with Stargate, but we have to keep in mind this franchise is cursed. There is really no big game out there from this franchise, and I at least hope it will be a success. I will buy it, maybe not on day one, but I will buy it to show my support. And yeah, break the damn curse. We want one good Stargate game out there. It can be a side scroller, I don't care what, but we need one.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I actually was interested in the SG-1 Unleashed, but then they decided to release it only for the mobile devices, which I am very old school in this regard. So I think that the games like that with story and stuff like that have no place being on mobiles. They should be on gaming consoles and PCs. Yeah, but I know I am very old-fashioned in this way. So that is why I never even played it. But that was something I was interested in because the story looked interesting. But then I've seen some gameplay footage and I do really get why the game was cancelled after, I believe, only 2 episodes.
Yeah, it was only two.
Yeah, I don't know why the Stargate franchise has this gaming curse. Everything gaming related, which was tried, always failed, and it's really shame because I am still surprised how big fandom and how big community of devoted fans this franchise has. Even now, when it's what 10 years? No, 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 more than almost 15 years since it ended. I don't remember when the SGU ended, so maybe I'm exaggerating, but it's out for quite a long time. Yet the fandom for the franchise is still very active, which is something I would say kind of unique. At least I am not aware that any other franchise has this loyal community. So I think any game that would be actually, launched would be success. But no, the history proves me wrong, and everything Stargate related always was either cancelled or finished incomplete or whatever. And it's really sad.
The sad part I also think is here that they don't have to invent something completely new. Just use some traditional games, for example, a co op shooter like Left 4 Dead, where there are 4 players, and build a story around that, and you would have a game.
Exactly. That's to me the most frustrating thing that basically the overall world already exists. You don't have to invent anything new. Yeah, in the SG1, what was the name of the game when they invented Haken as or whatever they were pronounced as the main baddies?
Do you mean the game which was nearly released, included already all of the voiceover and everything? That was Stargate Alliance.
Yeah, I believe so. So they invented basic new baddies, Haken. I don't know, maybe I pronounced that wrong. I have never actually heard anybody pronounce it, so I don't know how it should be pronounced. Anyway, I found it very interesting, but in my opinion, that was unnecessary because I believe the Stargate lore as it is right now is very rich, and there is, at least in my opinion, no need to invent new stuff because what we have already is quite rich. And just remember how many things in SG1 particularly was used in only one episode and never revisited again, just like retools or Stragot or stuff like that, which would really be immense opportunity for a game. Yeah, Foothold is still one of my most favorite episodes in SG1, and I really like the design and capability of Stragot. Those are the aliens that changed the appearance and took over the SGC and stuff like that. And there is quite a lot of that in SG1 and even in Atlantis. So yeah, the opportunities or possibilities are endless. Yet still, sadly, when it comes to the games, I don't know. It's some kind of curse.
Especially if you consider there was an entire episode in season 8 where they introduced a co-op game.
Yes, Gemini. Well, I've seen on YouTube a project made in Unreal Engine where there was the entire SGC recreated, and you can dial Abydos, you can travel there, and it was really graphically, at least, it was beautiful. It was first person, and something like that is what I would say every Stargate fan would love, to be able to go around SGC, to dial various planets and go there and then face various challenges. But yeah, I don't know. Who knows what the problem is?
Yeah, who knows where the curse is starting.
Yeah.
But I would say let's close it off. Okay, this is basically the part of the video where I open the mic to you. Is there anything you would like to add? Anything you think we should talk about?
Well, if there's anyone that never tried the game, try it. It's worth it. It will bring you fun. It's certainly something, if you are a fan of the Stargate universe, then certainly try it. I really doubt that you would be disappointed. If you are also somebody interested in 3D printing, check my page on the printables. Pick whatever model you'd like and just print it. Everything is free. I don't hide anything behind paywall. I actually find it kind of disgusting that somebody makes models, non-functional models, and hide them for a paid wall. I would never do that. It's just wrong. So don't worry, everything is free and you can do with it whatever you want. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, I would say that's it for this video. Leave us a comment, tell us what you think about the game, and of course, play the game. Until next time.
Bye bye.